If you are a highly sensitive person, I know you better than most, as I too embody the superpower of sensitivity. I only recently discovered that our sixth sense has a name, and that 30% of the population is deeply connected by this experience. For most of my life, my sensitivity not only felt like a mystery, but something I had to hold secret. To others, I was too sensitive or dramatic, but they couldn't see that beyond my vessel is a finely tuned instrument vibrating with the subtlest shifts in the air, and a heart so fragile catching and refracting each and every nuance of the world. A place where another's heartache is like my own, where energy is my primary language, and how setting the warm lighting in a room is not just for mere aesthetics, but for the literal well-being of my soul. I often thought, surely everyone else can feel this too, but it turns out it is only you and I. We are lone stars shimmering in the vast expanse, preserving the delicacy of this life experience and casting a tender light each day upon the world. Hi, soul friend. Welcome to our sacred space. I'm Saka, and I am a highly sensitive person. This video is for anyone who has ever been called too sensitive, as if it were a flaw. I want you to know that you are severely misunderstood, and that your sensitivity is not a weakness, but rather a profound gift. Today, I really want to help you dive deeper into what it means to be a highly sensitive person so that you can begin really honoring the gift of being able to sense what others cannot. Being highly sensitive myself, and all of my closest friends being highly sensitive as well, I've spent the past month reflecting on our experiences and really deep diving into the research to uncover the magic woven into our beings. I'm excited to share my story with you, along with 5 powerful tips that can help you navigate the world as a highly sensitive person, as well as nurturing ways to help you honor your sensitivity. By the end of our time together, you'll have all the tools you need to fully embrace your sensitivity and create a life that really honors your deepest needs. So stay with me, because I know one of these shifts will resonate with you and bring about a profound change in your journey. As a highly sensitive person, I often find myself very easily overstimulated, in empathy overload, and in this constant heightened state of awareness. If any of this resonates with you, welcome to the club, my love. We have found our people. Please comment below and let me know you're here. HSPs unite. For so long, I felt alone in this experience. I really began noticing that my sensitivity was different than others around the age of 9. Most nights I would cry myself to sleep just thinking about human beings in every crevice of the world who were suffering in some way, and it was as if I could feel their heartache like it was my own. It really wasn't until college that I shared this daily grief with someone else who was my roommate at the time, and she's now my best friend. And it was the first time that someone actually saw me in my sensitivity and held such a safe space for it. Years later, through therapy and extensive research, I was finally able to put a name to my sensitivity. And I don't typically like to label myself, but naming my experience felt so comforting and incredibly empowering. To know that I was not alone, and finally being able to connect the dots and realize that so many aspects of myself were deeply intertwined with my sensitivity, was incredibly liberating. I was just almost celebrating when I realized that I was a highly sensitive person, and come to find out, it is something to celebrate. But I found myself still longing for a deeper understanding of why we experience the world so intensely. And so I dove deep into research, as I do. What I found not only validated my experience, but really opened my eyes to some of the fascinating intricacies that make up our being. So, what is a highly sensitive person? We are human beings with a heightened sensitivity to internal and external stimuli. So this can be things like noise, light, textures, even emotional and social cues. Oh. Oh, was I saying? But the cool thing is, this actually stems from a unique trait called sensory processing sensitivity, which basically just means that our brains process everything way more deeply than the average person. Yet, surprisingly, the trait is actually found in about 15 to 30% of the population, although highly sensitive people often go overlooked and severely misunderstood. When I realized that all of my closest friends were highly sensitive people too, everything about our deep connections and who they are at their core just made complete sense. And it made me realize that there are likely way more highly sensitive people around us than we're probably aware of, and even among our animal friends. Biologists have actually found this trait in over 100 species, from fruit flies to primates. I did not realize that I had so much in common with a fruit fly. The trait is actually believed to be an evolutionary survival strategy that really allows us to observe things deeply and approach situations with caution. It's actually my new favorite fact. It's a beautiful reminder that we are nature and how deeply connected we are with our wild kin. If you've noticed sensitivity in your family, your intuition is probably spot on, because they actually believe that sensory processing sensitivity has a genetic component, which means it can be inherited. But our environment and our experiences also really shape how this trait manifests. So we're a rich blend of both nature and nurture. But what I did not know, and what blew my mind, is that our brains actually function completely different than those without this trait. Our minds are actually uniquely wired to process emotions and sensory experiences with incredible depth. They've done neuroimaging studies on highly sensitive people and their brains, and what these studies have revealed is that we have increased activation in the areas of our brain that are linked to empathy, self-awareness, and reflection. These areas are the insula and the mirror neuron systems. And then when it comes to our emotional regulation and our attention, we show heightened activity in our anterior cingulate cortex and our prefrontal cortex. So our brains are actually designed to connect deeply and process the world in more intricate detail that really helps us weave together information in unique ways. And lastly, being highly sensitive does not automatically mean that you're introverted, shy, or a quiet person. In fact, 30% of highly sensitive people are actually extroverts. So oftentimes our sensitivity can be linked to this notion of fearfulness or inhibition, but it's actually not linked to the core of our sensitivity at all. Okay, so if that was a whirlwind of science for you, the moral of the story is that our sensitivity is a natural, valuable gift that enhances our empathy, our awareness, and our depth of thought. But navigating life as a highly sensitive person can be very overwhelming, especially if this is a new discovery for you. So whether you've known this part of yourself for a while or you're just beginning to explore it, I have some transformational tools that will help you really navigate and regulate your sensitivity in the real world. As much as I was surrounded by love growing up, I was equally surrounded by a lot of intensity. My world was filled with a lot of family members who were living in their trauma that came with a lot of fighting. Even though I would try to retreat to my own space, I was often pulled into the middle of the chaos, expected to mediate really heavy topics that were far too heavy for my sensitive soul. The best way I can put it is it was like walking through a battlefield and feeling each and every emotional bullet on both sides, yet still being asked to solve the problem. The weight of it all was extremely overwhelming, but for a long time I kept my sensitivity hidden because I was constantly prioritizing those around me instead of my own emotional well-being. But now, when I find myself in an intense environment that I can't immediately escape, I've learned that centering myself through intentional, deep breathing can provide a mini escape from the stimulation. Sometimes just closing your eyes and retreating inward for just a moment, just a breath, can make all of the difference. Beyond that, I have found safety in not being afraid or hesitant to remove myself from situations that feel overstimulating, and shamelessly communicating to those around me how I'm feeling. I actually find myself immersed in intense environments pretty often because I do currently live in a big city, and so there's constantly so much going on around me. There was a time where my friends and I walked into a restaurant and the music was blaringly loud. We were having to shout over the music to even hear one another, and I immediately felt dysregulated as soon as I walked in. But instead of pushing through the discomfort as I would have in the past, I was completely honest with them about how overstimulated I was, how I was feeling, and asked them would they be open to moving to a different spot because of that. And they completely understood and resonated with how I felt. It made me realize that the best way to honor and protect my sensitivity is by being radically honest with both myself and others. There is no shame in speaking your truth and sharing your raw, authentic experience, and sometimes it's what everyone else needs to hear too. I found that every single time I honor myself in this way, it is such a radical act of self-love, and it even deepens my intimacy and relationship with myself. It feels like I'm saying to myself, I got you, girl, and she thanks me for it every time. There is this little dog watching me from the apartment next door. It's so cute. My family's natural way of speaking to one another is at volume 100, so screaming was just a part of the soundtrack of my life. My mom would always yell at my brother and I from downstairs if she needed something or just generally needed to communicate something. And for some, it might not seem like a big deal, but as a highly sensitive person, really abrupt or intense sounds feel like red flashing warning lights to me. And when you're chilling in your room and all of a sudden someone's screaming your name repetitively, it would rock my world. Once I realized that I'm being dysregulated by things like sensory overstimulation, communication becomes my lifeline. So for example, after some time, I asked my mom lovingly if she could please call me on the phone instead, or even come upstairs to communicate something to me. And she thought it was a little extra at first. At the time, I didn't have the language to describe myself as a highly sensitive person, but once she knew how I was internally impacted, she did slowly begin to respect how I felt and respect my wishes and create a different environment. Another way I experience sensory stimulation is if I'm in the middle of a conversation or in the middle of doing something and I hear like a loud or repetitive noise. My partner, who is not highly sensitive, often laughs at me because as soon as I hear it, I start to try to trace the source of the noise. Like I need to know where that's coming from. Please tell me someone can relate to this. Please comment below if you can. But it's like I can't let it go. And I just like repeatedly ask the question like, what is that? Or like, why are they making that noise? What is happening that this noise has come into our environment? I just can't ignore it like some people can. You have a right to put your investigator on and find the source of the noise because it really does soothe your soul when you're like, okay, although that's stimulating me, I know where it's coming from so I can move on. Maybe it depends how stimulating it is. And I know all of you can probably relate to this one, but something I don't play about as a highly sensitive person is lighting. If you turn the big light on, I will cry. I need lamps, lots of them, and I need warm lighting every time. Oof. Like that cool, bright, intense big light, I'm like, no way. That is honestly like truly insulting for me. But the way that I have navigated my sensory stimulation is bringing attention to my experience in these different scenarios instead of suppressing it or ignoring it. Highly sensitive people often go unnoticed, so most of the time, no one is going to know what you're experiencing internally. I found that really bringing others into your world and allowing yourself to be seen in all of your spidey senses can really help people love and support you more intentionally. For most of my life, I didn't know how to navigate my empathy, so I would carry around everyone's emotions and experiences, and I would find myself in a slump and extremely anxious and just sad, even though there was nothing wrong in my world because I was so deeply intertwined in someone else's. And this was so consuming and damaging for me. It led to a lot of self-compromise overanalyzing and people-pleasing behaviors. I just always put other people's needs above my own, even in the smallest ways, whether it was taking the uncomfortable spot on the couch or not speaking up to avoid hurting someone's feelings. It was just that the idea of someone else being uncomfortable or someone else having their feelings hurt felt worse to me than enduring the pain or discomfort myself. This put me in this perpetual state of niceness that led to me being constantly misunderstood and vulnerable, which led to my boundaries being demolished, just crossed all the time. Empathy is such a beautiful gift for you to have, but without boundaries, it can lead to severe self-neglect. One of my greatest evolutions this year has been learning how to take a step back and empathize with other people and their experiences without necessarily adopting them as my own. It's really helped me reclaim my autonomy and help me navigate relationships like the one that I have with my mom, because I grew up really watching my mom go through really tough times and navigate really deep-seated trauma. But because of who I am as a highly sensitive person, I would absorb all of her pain as if it was going to relieve her of it. But I've realized that my mom and I are having separate experiences, and how to hold space for others without necessarily adopting their experience or adopting their emotions. I've learned to communicate my boundaries and just respectfully and with love ask them, hey, if you do have something heavy to chat with me about, would you mind just checking in with me and seeing if I'm in the space to receive that and if I'm able to hold space for you at that time. Standing up for myself in this way has been super challenging, but also very empowering. As much as we want to love and support others, we can't do that if we aren't loving and supporting ourselves first. If you also struggle with empathy overload, another practice that really helps me stay regulated is being mindful of my media consumption. We are all victims of doom scrolling and unintentionally absorbing the news. So I always make sure I'm in the right headspace before diving into social media or reading the news. And I pay attention to the shifts in my body as signs of when to step away. Social media and the news is kind of like a gamble. You just don't know what level of intensity you're gonna get. And so I find as a highly sensitive person that putting on your helmet, putting your knee pads on, and bracing yourself before you dive in can really protect your sensitivity and make sure that you're in the space to receive whatever will pop up on your feed. Okay, you know that feeling when you walk into a room and you can immediately sense what's happening beneath the surface and you can feel the energy behind everyone's words? For highly sensitive people, this heightened awareness can show up frequently, if not always. Whether I'm walking into a store, a restaurant, or even at home, I'm always fully attuned to the dynamics around me. I remember I was out to eat with my partner once, and the people next to us were having a really intense conversation, and I was just absorbing it all. The energy of it was just entering my body and I couldn't focus. And so he switched seats with me and it reduced the impact so much. And what I learned is that sometimes it can be as simple as changing your position in a room. So don't be afraid to voice to the person that you're with what's happening, or if they know that you're highly sensitive, they may offer it anyway when they notice that you're impacted. It can make a world of a difference. It might sound funny, but one of the tools that actually really helps me when I'm in public and I'm just fully tapped into the energies of those around me is I'll just tell myself, mind your own business. As highly sensitive people, it is so easy to get caught up in the energies and the affairs of the people around us. It's almost like my body is like yearning to know more so that I can begin empathizing. And I always have to tell myself, girl, you don't know them, you won't know what's going on, and you don't need to. Just send them love, send them good energy, and move on. Walking away or distancing myself has really proven to protect my energy, and I just trust that they will feel the love and the empathy that I'm sending their way, and that makes me feel a lot better. But at home, it's the same with my partner. If he's having a bad day, it's really tough for me to stay unaffected because his mood becomes a part of my atmosphere. So it can really turn my day upside down as well. I make it a point to remove myself. So I'll go out for the day or I'll shift to another room. One thing I've learned is that if I stay immersed in a certain kind of energy for too long, empathy overload kicks in and I'm just completely wiped out. So prioritizing your well-being in moments like that is crucial. When I was in college, that's when my high sensitivity became even more apparent. I was experiencing things like chest tightening and difficulty breathing with all the anxiety of trying to tackle juggle large amounts of work and deadlines. I didn't realize it then, but I was extremely dysregulated and my deep breaths were far and few between. Now, as an entrepreneur, I am deeply in love with the way that I seek to impact the world and walk in my purpose. But what I didn't realize is that you can still burn out doing what you love. It's really easy to fall into days where the tasks have piled up and overwhelm sets in. And so if I don't regulate my nervous system, it's really easy for burnout to follow. And then that comes with physical and emotional discomfort that is really hard to shake off. What I've realized is there's always going to be a trade-off. If you finish everything, you're going to be utterly exhausted. If you don't, you beat yourself up about it. For highly sensitive people, these trade-offs can really throw us off balance and make it harder to find our center. So when it comes to navigating workloads, keeping myself regulated means taking intentional breaks. Whether it's going for a walk or spending time in nature, painting, or simply just disconnecting for a few days, these small acts really help me reclaim my peace and regulate my nervous system. And even while I'm in the moment doing work, deep breaths are my saving grace. They really ground me in the moment and kind of give me a break from that endless dialogue that's occurring in my head. Just taking a moment and closing your eyes to remember that you are not a robot, you are a human being, and productivity looks like regulating and resting too. The biggest misconception is that our sensitivity is a weakness. It's not. It's a profound gift, and it's even a superpower. It's really just about knowing when to say no, knowing when to take a step back, and also when to prioritize our needs before extending ourselves to others. And I know this can be hard, especially for highly sensitive people who are naturally inclined to nurture, but it's essential for our well-being. Being intentional about honoring your sensitivity is going to look like protecting your own energy a lot of the time, and that may come with trade-offs, and that's okay. In my opinion, it's more important to move through the world in a way that is aligned with your true self than to push through discomfort just to fit in or not draw attention to your very real experience. I've found that self-validation is truly a key part of this journey. In a world that doesn't quite understand or even value high sensitivity, it is crucial that we validate our own experiences because they are valid. We don't need external approval to know that what we're feeling is valid or important. We should embrace our sensitivity because it allows us to see and feel the world in ways that others might miss. And don't be afraid to speak up. The people around us won't know or understand what we're experiencing unless we share them. I truly believe that if we learn to openly communicate about our sensitivity, it can help other people support us better and also give the green light to our fellow highly sensitive peeps that, hey, it's okay to express yourself. It's okay to be openly sensitive. Especially nowadays, the world can be a very abrasive and stimulating place. When our natural bodies yearn moments of stillness and silence and peace, immersed in nature, we're all kind of operating in the Sims game, and that's not the natural way of being. So give yourself grace. I honor your sensitivity. I honor your ability to feel deeply and connect with others in a way that transcends words. I honor your ability to share love in ways that may go unnoticed by others. I honor the way that you notice the subtleties in life, the way that you find beauty and joy in the small things. I honor your emotional reactivity. I honor the way that you laugh until you cry, how moved you are by art, and the way that kind words feel like hugs to your heart. The depth at which you feel is truly what makes this big old world go round, and your ability to hold spaces filled with love and comfort is truly that of the divine. Please embrace your sensitivity, honor it, and just hold it near and dear like the gift that it is, because it truly is a light that is meant to shine, and it uplifts the world in only a way that you can. I hope that this video helps you navigate your sensitivity with ease. If you are highly sensitive, or if that term is completely new to you, but you resonated with some of the things that were shared, please leave your experiences below. I would love to continue this conversation. I think the more that we can connect in this way, the more each of us feels seen and feels understood and just feels good in embracing who we are. Also, I'm so excited because I'm going to be launching my weekly newsletter soon as we hit 100 subscribers. And so I'm going to leave the link down below if you still want to sign sign up. I have such great goodies in store for you guys. I'm just excited to continue our conversations and expand our sacred space. I love you with my entire heart, and I hope you can feel every inch of it through the screen. Thank you so much for sitting with me today and being just as you are. I am so grateful for this space that we share, and I just can't wait to see you next time. Bye!